This is the story of the little Sweet Pea and her friends. Sweet Pea's Big Adventure. There once was a lake monster named Sweet Pea who lived in the lake tier of the clouds, very source of the Hudson River. She lived with her mom, her dad, and her pet seahorse, Little Boogie. They loved to laugh and play in the sunshine. The only problem Sweet Pea had was that Little Boogie was always getting into trouble. "Stop chewing on those rocks. Stay out of my lake, kelp. Stay away from that current," she would always say. But Little Boogie rarely listened. That Little Boogie, her father said, has been nothing but trouble. It may be time to rehome him if he can't behave. "No," said Sweet Pea. "He'll be good, I swear. I will train him." But no matter how hard she tried, she could not get Little Boogie to listen. Sure enough, she took her eyes off him for 1 minute, and whoosh, down he went a current. He was laughing and rolling as he went. For Little Boogie, sometimes it felt good to be bad. She raced after him as fast as her big tail could swim. But every time she got close, he seemed to slip away, pulled faster and faster in the current. And then she realized something terrible indeed. They had been swept towards a very large waterfall at the southern edge of the lake. It was only a matter of seconds before the worst had happened. Little Boogie had tumbled over the edge. Miraculously, Little Boogie was saved by a branch in the middle of the waterfall. Sweet Pea leaned over and reached out as far as she could to grab him. But just as Boogie hopped on her horn, crack, the branch snapped. They both fell down into the deep unknown. Everything went white. Going down. Well, after a few moments, Sweet Pea found herself at the misty bottom of the falls, unable to return to the calm waters of her home lake. "There you are," she said, as Little Boogie shamefully climbed onto her horn. "I'm not mad at you, I'm just a little disappointed," she said. "Hey, you need some help finding your way back home?" an unfamiliar, gravelly voice said, startling Sweet Pea. "Who are you?" Sweet Pea asked shyly. "My name's Jack. And this here's Clem the river otter. These are my parts. What brings you to this swimming hole?" Sweet Pea told her story, and Jack agreed to get her home, but for a fee. "I want a lifetime supply of supple green lake kelp," he said, with some stuck in his teeth. "It's the finest in the land. This here's the way." Both Sweet Pea and Little Boogie shared a glance, not sure if Jack really knew much about navigating. But turning back wasn't an option, so they reluctantly agreed. Well, hours turned into days, days turned into weeks, and it began to feel like Sweet Pea that maybe Jack didn't really know how to get her home after all. Just a little bit further. "I recognize that damn branch right there," he would say. The river slowly seemed to get wider and wider, deeper and deeper, and then it even tasted a little salty. Nothing like home. It sure was beautiful, though, except for the garbage here and there. It wasn't long before Sweet Pea missed her lake more than ever, especially her mom and dad. I think we should turn back, Jack. I want to go home. She said that one day, and Jack hesitated. As you wish, he said. But, well, maybe we are a bit lost. There is one more thing I want to show you, though, before we go back. Do you trust me? Yes, she said. Boogie nodded too. Follow me then, he said with a fast swish of his tail. Just don't get too close to the boats, he said. That's how I got this. Jack pointed to the scar on his third eye. Not all humans here are nice like where you're from. Sweet Pea hadn't noticed until that moment that the river had gotten quite crowded. On the shore there were trains, cars, and bridges, all of which she had never seen before. So she really didn't even have words for them. It was quite overwhelming. Jack sprayed at a boat to keep them away. Well, things got crazier from there. News had spread in the human world that two rather large lake monsters, a river otter with an eye patch, and a cheeky seahorse, were slowly making their way down the Hudson River. A monster dance even went viral, and a cryptid tracker app reached #1 in the App Store. Things soon took a rather dark turn, though. Couple of meanies thought it might be funny to peg them with water balloons. Fearing for Boogie's safety, though the journey had made him a much more well-behaved seahorse, Sweet Pea did something rather unexpected. She started climbing. Higher and higher she went, away from all the noise. The color of the statue that Jack had brought them to, reminded her of a warm hug from her mother and father. She let out a low bellow. It was all the sadness, longing, and anger in one low note that shook the city. Tink, 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 tink. Tiny sedatives flew from blow darts. That was all that it took. The rescue choppers loaded the 4 passengers and headed back north, each of them with sugar plum fairies dancing in their heads for the long journey. Hordes of onlookers watched on in utter amazement. You call that a sedative? Clem asked, opening his good eye. He's speaking up over the hum of the chopper blades. You should have been here in the 60s, brother. Oh, and for those meanies who threw those water balloons at poor old Sweet Pea, charged on 2 counts: endangering an endangered species and littering. Crime doesn't pay. It was only a few hours until those lovable rascals touched down at Lake Tear the Clouds. Little Boogie tried and promised to behave, well, most of the time. Jack found a much easier shortcut to the river, but he still got his lifetime supply of supple green lake kelp. Mom and Pop were happy, but Sweet Pea was happiest of all. really, they all lived happily ever after. Meanwhile, New York City, present day. I wonder what's next for these rascals. And we'll find out on the next one. Hope you guys join us.